the umpire walked up and said, "Let me see that baseball." And so Spanky throws in the baseball. The umpire looks at it, laughs, throws it back to me. There was a different attitude about things back then.
You know, I had a situation in the World Series. Well, Earl Weaver came out and said, Rule 801, he's not in contact with the rubber. All you got to do is touch any part of the rubber and you're fine. But he held up the game for about 15 minutes. Such a pain in the butt. Actually, when he died, I went to Baltimore to make sure he was dead.
I have a question about the Hall of Fame. You got someone like Scott Rowland who gets elected, but
It was my last game. That's been a good time to do it. Oh yeah, I did some flashing. Yeah. Not one of those Marvel comic characters.
I know that Mr. Blast, you've done baseball camps for kids, and you've done a lot of events for kids, and I commend you both on that. Is the Major League draft, they reduced it from 40 rounds to 20 rounds. Can that change back, or are we stuck with only 20 rounds? I see all these young guys, my son's age, trying to make it, and there's only 20 rounds.
Well, it's tough whether it's 40 rounds or 20 rounds. It's such thin air. I think a lot of us, if we knew the odds against us when we started playing and gotten drafted or signed, it would have been very discouraging. So it's thin air. So if it's 40 rounds, somebody's going to get left out. I mean, you take a look at that quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, 487th pick. It's so hard to look at an 18-year-old young man and see what he's going to be like when he's 23, 22. There are some players that are as good as they're going to be at 19, and there's some players that are going to be better when they're 30. And it's one of the toughest things to do, is to be a scout or an organization trying to pick the right kids. How do you gauge the obsession, that fire, that desire to excel, what you can learn, trying to pick up maybe a different pitcher if you're a pitcher, or try to dazzle somebody at a tryout camp. It's tough to even get signed. And I'll go with what I said. It's tough whether it's 20 rounds or 40 rounds.
Somebody right here.
Neil, when you hit that grand slam, how far was it?
I think it was about 600 feet.
He's the best.
Somebody raise your hand back there, I thought? Oh, way in the back.
Yeah, I was just curious, who in the Pirates organization are you guys really excited to see shape into great ball players, and what you think they'll turn into?
That's the way Greg did it.
I want to add something that I think helped me so much. I had 3 basic fundamentals of broadcasting for 34 years, and I got really good at all of them. The first one is you've got to have the ability to state the obvious. Second, you've got to perfect the way to talk for 10 minutes and say nothing. And the third is never take a position or give an opinion.
I knew that was going to be one of them.
Can you give us a home run call? Can you give us a home run, an O'Neill Cruz home run call?
Yeah,
Nice.
What's your name? Come on now. What's your name?
We're gonna drive.
My name's Hayden.
Okay,
You
Hayden.
got this, Hayden.
Let's hear it, Hayden.
Clear the deck with a cannonball going. I also remember he launched one, I think it was, I don't know where it was, maybe in Milwaukee or something, I think it went up to a higher deck where a car was.
Yeah. Great job, Hayden. How about it for Hayden?
Hayden, before you leave, try to be a play-by-play guy. That's when you can talk all the time and you don't have to worry about letting the color guy say anything.
And Hayden, you have to have a lot of patience because you work with guys like this. You're a very patient person. Just accept them, nod your head a lot, agree. Yeah, yes?
Along those lines, I do want to say, over the last 20-some years, we haven't had a lot of good baseball. But you guys make it good every single night. Yeah.
It's true.
All of you. I mean, now Neil's up there, same thing. Rock is in here, all of you. Joe, every single one of you. Awesome job.
Thank you so much.
What's that?
And I think very seriously, if you want to be involved in this kind of business, you want to get in your car, come to the ballpark, and forget about the records or the standings or anything. You're going to come to see a major league ball game. And I think if you keep track of that, that's part of the reason that we do what we do. We get a chance to watch a big league ball game every single night, and it starts with the anthem. And you never know, because Greg likes to say, and he's absolutely right, so many times you're going to see something in a ball game that you've not seen before. Everybody said there's 15 things that can happen in a ball game. There's a lot more than that, and that's part of the reason we come to the ball game.
Now that I've buttered you guys up, can I ask a question too?
No.
Bob, Game 7, 1992. I saw an interview with Stan Belinda, and he said that pitch, 99 times out of 100, that's hit right at Jay, and game's over. But not that time. How long did it take to get over that? Did you ever get over that?
That's the only thing I think that I can ever remember that stayed with me was that. I was real good at, turning the page about stuff at the end of the season and going about my business in the winter. And, 'cause I lived out in California at that time. I didn't live here in Pittsburgh, so you could kind of get away from it. And I can still to this day, I can remember what my bedroom looked like, in the house we had out in California. I can remember waking up in the middle of the night dreaming about that game, and not a good dream. So it definitely stayed with me that entire off season. That was it was kind of tough. I don't want to make anything make it about me, but this is one of the reasons to explain why I felt like that, was because I was going to be 37 years old next year. I knew that was my last shot to get back to the World Series. That, we had lost Bonilla, we had lost Smiley the year before. We were gonna, now we're gonna lose Bonds. We're gonna lose Drabek. I mean, it's done. Maybe they'll put it back together in 3 or 4 or 5 years, do it again, but I'm not gonna be here. So personally, I knew that was my last shot at going back and being a participant in the World Series again, and I think that's why that really stood with me for a long time.
Time for a couple more?
Over here.
Oh, yep.
Hi again, Steve and Neil.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sorry. Okay, so my question is, Neil, you're too young for this, that would be Steve and Bob. Do you remember who we were playing, 1979? Doubleheader, guys needed to win. Philadelphia gets up, they hit a grand slam. Bottom of the ninth, bases loaded. Who do we put in and who gets our grand slam?
You want me to tell? I believe it was
Steve Black.
Easler off Tug.
John Milner.
Milner.
Remember that game? 2 doubleheaders.
No,
in
I
one
remember
game.
the game because I've heard about it many times. I heard about it from the Philly side. I've heard Tug talk about that a lot, and so that was kind of because I came up with the Phillies.
Yeah.
So in fact, played with them that next season.
Right. It's so
So
unusual.
it was really fresh in the Phillies' mind, that game, and that at bat, that home run was brought up a lot that next year. Apparently, we're talking about something sticking with you. That stuck with the Phillies right there.
Well, my thing was, I'm like, oh, who's John Milner? Oh, the game's over. We really need this. And then he gets up there and he smacks it out, and I thought
It was a pinch hit, right? Didn't he send him up there to pinch?
Pitch hit.
Chuck sent him up there, lefty on lefty, to take away Tug's screwball, because that was his main pitch.
It was like his first pitch.
So he didn't like throwing screwballs to left-handers, so he threw his conventional stuff. See ya.
And then to see 2 doubleheaders in one game, even though Phillies hit one, it was unbelievable. I just wanted to see if you guys remembered.
Thank you.
Steve, you remember that?
Hey, Neil, we're gonna win a World Series this year. I know it. I know it.
Steve, who is the pitcher you're most excited to watch this season?
I'm not as up on everything as I should be, but we got 4 or 5 really good young arms. And you don't do anything without good pitching. If you can get 2 of those guys to really step up out of 5, you're heading in the right direction.
I know one thing Steve talked about when Mitch Keller came up. Well, he talked about, and he's so right. He said, people think Keller's going to come in here and right away, it takes time. That's what Steve said.
Yeah, very few people come and step in and just dominate right off the bat. It just doesn't happen. And it's amazing how something can fall into place. Okay, I can trust that slider when I'm behind in the count. I can trust that rather than have give in and throw a fastball on a 2-0 count. Those guys, those things seem so simple, but it can fall into place when you start to own it and you believe it. So I'm never surprised when somebody comes out of the woodwork that has been around for a while and figures it out. I think pitchers do that. I think hitters are more gradual, in my opinion, but it can fall into place for a pitcher. You find a pitcher can live with. I remember going down to the Dominican Republic, learning the slider, and that got me through 10 years. Because I could throw it behind in the count. That helped me. It came like that. So, I think it's a foundation of pitching, and pitching is a foundation of starters. Pardon my expression, that can go more than 5 innings. Just saying.
If you look back to the 3 years we were a wild card team and got in, I mean, there was a difference. There was something different about those teams than some previous years, the 20 previous years, and even what we've had lately. And you had a horse in that rotation. You had somebody that everybody could look at and know, okay, so-and-so's going today, we're going to win this ball game. It didn't matter if you're playing a first place team or anything, and we haven't had that. And I think Keller turned the corner last year. And I guess to answer the question, yeah, I don't know if I'm excited to see him, but I'm anxious to see him. I want to know, is it going to stick? Because if it sticks, and he is that guy that he showed us last year, now we got our horse. Now, that's a big step to becoming a legitimate above 500 team. You got to have that guy in that rotation. And of course, you have to have some helping guys in there too, but there has to be the ace of the staff type guy. And when we were winning, when we were, what is it, 3 years in a row, right? We won the wild card. We had, a couple of those years, you might even be able to throw 2 names up like that, but you have to have the one. You got to have your Drabek, you got to have your Steve Carlton. Those are two. When I was with the Braves, we won. We had Phil Negro. You got to have a stud in that lineup, and so hopefully we got one now.
An overview of the major leagues. You've got to be so good to be a major league pitcher or a major league hitter, and it comes down to the fact who does it most often. Everybody's capable of doing it. You can win a game here. You can hit. You go 3 for 4. Who does it the most often? So it's consistency, and it can't be a one-year thing. You've got to get people that do it over and over and over again. And the superstars do it more often than the regular major league players who are so gifted just to be there. But the superstars are the guys that do it the most often. It's simple math. You get enough guys that do it more often than anybody else. And baseball is so great because there are so many games, because the cream comes to the top and the other stuff goes to the bottom. You don't fool anybody in a 16-game schedule or a shorter schedule. That's why it's still one of the reasons it's the best game. You don't fool people.
Yeah, I remember you went 4 for 4.
I went 4 for 5 one day. Not that I don't remember. September 5th, 1969, Wrigley Field. 45 45 degree humidity, 76 degrees. Yeah, I did, yeah. The rest of it's vague. The great thing was I ran to first base and the coach said, take a left, because I'd always gone back into the gun. You know how that works, Bob. One.
3 generations Pirates legends, Neil Walker, Bob Hawk, and Pirate Hall of Famer, Steve Blass.